Hi everybody. Wishing you all a very good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to the eighth episode of Permissionless Learning. Permissionless learning basically means that one shouldn't have to seek any permission from a certain institute or corporation to seek knowledge or to learn a particular skill. With the infinite resources available in this day and age, it is possible for us to move towards a self-directed learning approach. Uh, Today we are having Zareen Cheema. Zareen is currently working as a technical manager at VOLVO Cars Sweden, and there's so much to her portfolios. I can just go and on talking about her achievements, but let us try to learn her achievements through talking with her. Zareen, could you tell us more about your how was your journey and just tell us about your journey.
Okay, thank you, Madhvi. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here and talk to you all about this. And as Madhavi said, let's make this an engaging session. So if you have any questions, we'd probably take them in the end, if I'm not correct. But yeah, feel free to reach out, ask your questions, and let's make this as engaging as possible. So yeah, as Madhavi said, I'm Zareen. I'm currently based out of Gothenburg, Sweden. And yeah, where should I begin? Maybe I should start from college. So my background is in mechanical engineering. I've done my bachelor's and master's in the same domain, and I'm a graduate of Cummins College of Engineering in the University of Pune in India. And yeah, so my main motivation of going into a core mechanical branch was actually to specialize later on in something like product design or go into the pivot a little bit into the space industry. And I really wanted to work very hands-on in the core branch that I was studying. So once I graduated from Cummins, I moved on to do my master's in the same field, but specialized in product design at UC Berkeley in California, which is a fantastic experience and also very challenging environment because coming from Pune and India and coming from humble backgrounds, you're just like you're fascinated by all the experiences and opportunities that the world has to offer. And for me, it was just like that eager-eyed girl trying to go in every classroom and trying to see, okay, what's happening? Where are the exciting things happening on campus? And then and while I was doing this, I had a really good opportunity to work with, and this is my also my master's thesis or capstone in tensegrity robots, which I did in collaboration with NASA Ames Research Center. And that was a very good opportunity because I got to work for about 6 to 9 months on this project, building these soft tensegrity robots that initially they were planned to launch it on another planet, but we pivoted the use case a little bit so that it could be launched, for example, as first responders when there is a fire situation. So it would be like a colleague to a firefighter, for example. And then while I was doing my master's, I was also applying and hunting for my next avenue and where should I go next. And being a person who was always enthusiastic in space sciences, of course, I did try a lot to be like, okay, what are the avenues? Where can I explore? How can I use the knowledge that I've gained in engineering and sort of take it forward? And along the way, I got an opportunity to work at Schlumberger. And Schlumberger is an oil and gas industry, and it's a very traditional company. And I got this opportunity to work in one of their manufacturing facilities at Houston. So this is like a 200 million facility, and my job was more to run and drive this cross-functional team that comprised quality, sustaining, and manufacturing, and work towards reducing engineering failures. And as I was doing this, it was also really nice because I got to go on oil fields and I got to really see the products that I was building and testing. And from this led me to another avenue in which I am at present, which is VOLVO Cars in Sweden. And I think many of you might be thinking, okay, how did you transition from the US to Sweden? Was it easy? Was it tough? So maybe I could just answer that right now. And yeah, it was a lot of debating and sort of being like, okay, what do I want to do? And my primary purpose was always, okay, I want to explore as much as possible. And when Volvo Cars came along the way, I was just like, wow, it's a very different industry from the one I was at present and the one I thought that I would be in. And I did not have so much knowledge about it at present. So I went into it, and it's been about 2 years since I'm working, more than 2 years since I'm working at Volvo, and it's extremely exciting because the whole automobile industry is pivoting into electrification, and they're moving towards building battery electric cars. And this is one of those key moments in this industry when they're completely moving from petrol and diesel, moving into a different domain, which creates a lot of challenges and at the same time a ton of opportunities for people working in it. So my role is working very early stage. So I work in the concepts of an early stage exploration of products that you would probably see in the car maybe 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line. And we try to validate and invalidate them at the very beginning stage. So if there's a cool idea out there, and we try to look outside the automobile industry for a lot of inspiration. So if there's a cool opportunity out there, okay, how do we get this? How do we get this into cars, for example? Yeah, so that's what I'm doing at present. And I'm going to give it back to Madhavi to see if there are any burning questions out there.
Yes, this was a very inspiring journey that you had till now. Flashback, let's go to the time where you were in undergrad in your days in Cummins College. So you did a lot of things, you know. You were into internships, you also did your expedition. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Student on Ice. How did you find this opportunity? And after which, also tell us how did you manage to crowdfund such a huge amount and also your experiences.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I didn't touch a lot about my undergrad because that was, and I probably should have, because that was one of the most exciting times. Your 4 years at college are extremely foundational, and they really lay the stones, and sort of pave your way for the future. And of course, Cummins was the place that you really try to find out, okay, which direction do I want to go? What's my purpose? And while I was at Cummins, as you mentioned, Madhavi, a really exciting opportunity came my way. So I was selected to go on an expedition to the Antarctic through an organization, a Canadian organization called Students on Ice. And it was about, I think, a 3-week long expedition. It happened in December 2014 till 2015, Jan 2015. And I think that was one of the most transforming moments of my life. And I like to describe it in that way because I went there as a student, but also as an engineer, like an engineer in the making. And you go there and you realize that a lot of things that you create and build in your daily life, they do have impact on like a faraway place. And in this case, it was Antarctica. It's a seventh continent and it's extremely untouched till you go there and you actually see that what you witness is very different from reality. You do see like the sea level has been rising and the effect of biodiversity on the whole planet. The krill population along the Ross Sea has been declining. And sort of this whole imbalance in the ecosystem that has been created by the things that we make in our day-to-day life. And it does have an impact in the end. One of the things that really shocked me when I went to Antarctica was the whaling stations. So back like 50 years back or 60 years back, whales were actually they were hunted down for oil. And there was this huge whaling industry in Nantucket in the United States and in Japan as well. So they all used to go down to the Southern Ocean, right above Antarctica, and hunt for whales. And when I went there, and one of the places I went, you could actually see like this huge barrel of oil, or like which did not have oil right now, but you could still see the barrel that contained oil 60 years back. You could still see carcasses of these whales on the shore, and that really made you realize how cruel we could be. And according to the Antarctic Treaty, you cannot hunt whales anymore. But a lot of countries are still trying to sort of bypass that and do it under the radar a little bit. But yeah, that was one of the things that really touched me when I went there. like the whole imbalance of the ecosystem that has been created and does impact a continent, and which we are not aware of. So coming back, it was really interesting to talk to people about it and actually spread that awareness. And as a person, as an engineer, I think my next thing was like to actually make products or make things that have a sustainable aspect to it, which are sustainable and which would sort of like for the future generation not have an impact as much as it has had for us. So
I truly agree there. Yeah, so in my opinion, you cannot, you take life for granted and you would not know the essence of life, without having an exposure to such adverse situations. And yeah, this is the true role of an engineer to build sustainable products that would help every life on this planet survive. So my question is, how did you find this opportunity? I mean, in that undergrad state, we are more inclined towards, just enjoying our college life, and we normally people do not know where to find opportunities. So, could you tell us about that?
yeah, and I think a lot of people that I see here are from Cummins College. So maybe I could like also make it a bit specific to Pune or but yeah, I mean opportunities, window of opportunities, and I think I'd really like to quote my dad when he talks about these things, because he really talks about like, okay, if you don't find something, if you don't sort of like go and have that drive for something, you're not going to find something. So I know that a lot of people they want to do they want to do a lot of things. They have the drive within you, and that is the sole thing that you need in order to find something. So opportunities do come by, and they come by to people in various shapes and forms. And I think it's up to us to identify that. And in my case, this opportunity came in one of the most strangest forms. And it was like actually one thing sort of leading on to the other. So before this, I had gone to the European Space Camp in Andenes in Norway. And earlier that year, before I had applied for the space camp, was when I got to know about this opportunity, and it was through one of the institutes in India, but also like a professor that I was working with in Canada, and this was an opportunity that I also sort of used in order to do a research with a professor who was in Canada. So it came in various shapes and forms, and it was just like one thing leading on to the other, one person saying that, okay, maybe this is interesting and you could try that. So it was sort of like a domino effect. So I wouldn't like sort of pinpoint it from coming in one sources. And as I said, like opportunities come in various shapes and forms. So it was like a domino effect of one thing leading on to another, and one person saying, "Oh, like have you spoken to him?" And that person saying, "Okay, I'm doing some sort of research with this organization called Students on Ice. Do you want to check it out?" So it was. I don't think it just came out of the blue. It was more like looking for it and trying to connect the dots, which I think it's sort of also very common when we're studying in undergrad. Like we're trying to look for internships, and maybe I could pivot a little bit into internships now, because mostly between your third year and your fourth year, there's a period where everyone wants to get a hands-on experience. And a lot of times, sometimes, for example, in Cummins, I do know that we have a lot of companies coming on campus to offer internships. And other times, you have to go out and network. And this sort of brings you into the reality, because in India, usually how it works is a lot of companies come on campus, but outside of India, a lot of colleges don't have this. So you have to go out and network on your own. So you have to reach out through LinkedIn and sort of create your network of people who you ask, like, oh, do you have anything in mind? Do you have an opportunity that I would be interested in? And I really want to stress the fact how important your network can be in order for you to sort of like in the end find these opportunities, find internships, And the earlier you start building it, the earlier you start talking to people outside of your bubble and outside your comfort zone, the more good it is for you in the future. And I know, Madhavi, like we have a lot of good examples from Cummins as well. Like a lot of people have sort of used their broader network in order to do very amazing things.
I do agree over here to, to find your opportunity, you just have to line your passion with the opportunity. And in order to do that, you just need to be there. Just present yourself, do personal branding. So personal branding is also a very not very touched about topic during your undergrad. Do you have any tips for, people who are still in their UGs or maybe masters to, how to really
Mhm.
build your portfolio and be out there?
Yeah. I think one of the things that really helped me back then and right now is also something known as active listening, which it's a passive way of building your brand. But whenever you meet someone, try to practice active listening. So what essentially is the core of this is when you are talking to someone, instead of nodding, try to ask them questions. Try to when they bring up something interesting, try to reiterate or try to be like, oh, is that what you mean? And what do you mean by this? Ask them questions. And this very sort of fundamental base of active listening really helps you, um, a for yourself. It really helps you sort of to take those notes in your brain and be like, okay, I spoke to this person, and this is like the essence of it. And for the person, how it sort of is beneficial is he or she gets to know that okay, you're interested in what they're talking about, and then in the end, sort of when they think about opportunities, they remember about you, they connect the dots. So practicing active listening is very important, and it's important in that context as much as it is in any professional scenario. Like if you're in your work life, talking to people, like some of the times we have a lot of meetings online, and especially now during COVID when all the meetings are through Teams or Zoom, it's very hard to keep focus. But if you practice active listening, ask questions, unmute your button, switch on the camera, it really does make a difference that, okay, you're interested, you're present, you're in that moment.
Yeah, this. I read this somewhere, and I've been trying to implement it myself. So yeah, a very good and very essential tip over there. Let's talk about your current role.
Mhm.
So I've seen you transition into various roles within Volvo. Uh, how was your experience, going from technical to a non-technical role, and then now you have a role that is kind of a fusion. So, how was the experience?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Madhavi, because I know a lot of people might resonate here with me because I was a mechanical engineer, studied that for about 5 or 6 years, and then the role I have at present is also more into the software realm and more into product. And one thing I want to tell you is that a lot of times we think that we are very far or straight away from software and programming, and probably that is not for us. But the more that we get into this, into our present world, we realize like software and hardware go hand in hand. Of course, you have a car that runs on wheels, and you need axles, and you need brakes, and you need motors. But the car is getting more and more intelligent. We're moving towards autonomous drive. We're moving towards level 5 autonomy. We're trying to make connected cars. We're trying to have over-the-air updates, and moving towards this area requires you to also understand the base software of the car. And if you are still in your bachelor's right now, and you resonate with me, and you are pursuing mechanical engineering, I would say like try not to be intimidated by software. Try not to be intimidated by programming, because in the end it's just a way of applying logic, and placing that logic inside something. So practice that, and try to make efforts to go and learn that. And yes, my role in present is a fusion of hardware and software. So what we try to do is make these early stage concepts and products which originate from both these directions, and try to see if we can validate or invalidate them with the business, with the backing of a business strategy, and using strategy and foresight and seeing like, okay, how would this product be like if we implemented it in a production car? Would it work? Would people use it? Does it have any market value to it? And coming back and seeing that, okay, what could be like the go-to market strategy if we implemented this? Are we generating any new revenue streams? So it's a lot. It's sort of like it's a huge umbrella. So it covers a lot of areas. But one really good thing is that that most of the things that I have for this are sort of developed along the way. So of course you have to be prepared for some things in your life. You need to have the core skills, but a lot of these things you can also learn along the job. For example, like a lot of things in strategy and business development, I learned during my rotation with Polestar, which is a sister company of Volvo Cars. And Polestar is also into developing fully electric cars, and they're headquartered here in Sweden, but it sells cars all around the world. And working with them and sort of like helping them define their business strategy, seeing their digital ecosystem within Asia Pacific, and also seeing how we could sort of from a very grassroots level, have Polestar emerging in new markets. And the market that I worked with then, which I can talk about right now, was Australia. So the Asia Pacific markets, extremely different from the other markets that Polestar had been to. So you start asking these questions to yourself, okay, if Polestar is going to launch in Australia, how would the network of energy service providers be? How would they want to partner up with us? What are our competitors doing? And questions like this that you can read in a book, but when you actually do it is when you learn from it. And that was very fundamental for me because I took a lot of things from there, and which I use right now in my current position as well. Yeah, I hope that answered the
Zareen,
question.
yeah, you did. You mentioned about autonomous cars. So, how would you describe level of autonomy? I mean, uh, level of autonomy a car has. I mean, how would you describe it? I was just curious. Very, you can go as technical as possible.
Madhvi, I just lost you there for a second, so you'll have to repeat the question for me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's good.
Yeah, so you talked about autonomous cars. I really wanted to know the level of autonomy that we currently have in our cars. So can you describe it? I mean, you can go as technical as possible.
Aha, okay. Um, let's see where I should begin with this. So yeah, I think you all must be also aware about the SAE levels of autonomy. So we have level 1 to level 5 in this case. And I'm not an AD pro. I'm just a person who works in an industry that who are trying to become AD pros. So don't quote me on any of these questions, but I'm just trying to spark interest out here. But yeah, so we are trying to move towards and I'm not going to say this as very Volvo specific, so I'm going to remove the V and I'm going to say the automobile industry. So it's not very specific to Volvo. So let's take examples from other places in the automotive industry. So let's just pick up Tesla and see what they are doing. So Tesla right now has a function called the autopilot, and it's trying to you know it's trying to get more and more intelligent, where they have like over the air updates. So cars have the latest features. So your car is essentially like, if I can compare it like to your phone. When you buy a phone, okay, maybe some of you have an iPhone. You have an iPhone 9, you have an iPhone 8. But the iPhone has in the most purest sense an over-the-air update where you just like say, okay, install new software, and it's probably going to give you an iOS 15 or 13 or 14. It's going to keep you updated. It's going to give you the latest security bugs and the latest features inside your phone. So even though your hardware in that sense is something that is ancient, maybe you have an iPhone 5, it's an ancient hardware, but your software it's updated to the latest one. So so you don't feel very backward when you're using the phone. It's still okay. It's still the latest UI. You still have the cool features that probably your friend has who has the iPhone 11. And that's how cars are going towards. So your hardware is trying to keep up. Your software is the latest one through over-the-air updates, through sort of like, okay, this is the latest patch. We're sending it over. Install it in your car. So it's becoming more like your phone on wheels. And of course, like a phone has a battery, a car has a battery. And we're moving, and maybe we don't want to touch a little bit upon maybe we can touch upon batteries later on, Madhavi, but it really depends on the interest in the community. I'd like to also know more about what people are interested in, so I can talk about that thing in specific.
Um, for now, you can take it in the direction you want. Let's just assume people know the basics.
Okay, cool. So do you want to keep it open for the audience right now, or do you want me to continue speaking?
Yeah, you can continue speaking.
Okay. But now I
Yes.
lost my chain of thoughts a little bit. Um, okay. So I'm just thinking because I lost my chain of thoughts. We were talking about from cars to phones, and now I'm stuck a little bit. But maybe let's go into battery electric cars. And this was maybe I can throw it out, and Madhavi, you can open it up to the audience as well. Um, So when you have battery electric cars, and that's the direction that most car companies are trying to move into, you need a very strong charging network. And having sort of like I did travel down to India a couple of times and go home and see the charging stations and the network that we have. And I did see a couple of them. But how do you think like the infrastructure is keeping up with the cars in these different countries? Like we're trying to make cars that are more and more towards the battery electric. We're moving away from diesel and petrol. But in countries, for example, like European countries, the infrastructure and the sort of cars, they're probably going at a one-on-one pace. But I'm just trying to understand how you guys feel about the pace of infrastructure development and sort of like the cars in other developing countries. What do you think about that, Madhuri? Maybe we should open that question up right now.
Yeah, I'd like to go in first. So, compared to India, I think, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, the Scandinavian countries do get a subsidized electricity on a subsidized amount, and here in India, we do not have any infrastructure built around that. So maybe there's not much hype in India about electric vehicles. People are very interested in knowing what possibilities they have regarding, the charging, or what if there's some problem with the vehicle? Where do they go? Do they have to go directly to the showroom, or they could, have the maintenance th- in their local garage? So I think that's the problem. There's no information around usage of such vehicles. I'm sure the audience will have more to add on this. Anybody in the audience who wants to speak on this topic, you can just raise your hand. I'll add you in. Or I'll call out random names. Arya, do you want to talk about it?
Mm. There's so till Arya raises her hands. What we're trying to do right now with these companies like also like Volvo and Polestar is trying to see that if we can place these charging stations maybe near places where people go for skiing, for example, in the north of Sweden. So trying to make it more accessible and close to these experiences and things like that. For example, Rivian is also starting to place stations in forests. Because, okay, what if you are going hiking in a remote area? How do you charge your electric car there? Okay, but let's give you the floor, Arya, since you've now come as a speaker.
I'd just like to add that people would also be worried about what would be the expenses of charging uh, and also about, yeah, as Madhvi said, about the maintenance, and should they be doing it going to some place, or will they be able to do it by themselves? And that kind of thing, that will they be equally efficient as our fuel driven cars? And also the charging stations that we're talking of, I think the pace here is quite low, and we are still getting into that. Even if we are able to make, then it is going to be difficult to make people agree to buy those vehicles. So that would also prove to be another challenge.
Mhm. Yeah, and that is always an uphill battle because there are some people who are very early adopters of this. And the early adopters face the most, of course, they're like techie people and people who want to try out new things, but they're also the people that take most of the hit because they try to figure out everything on their own because maybe things are not laid in stone. Maybe the apps don't work. Maybe you are not routed to your nearest charging station. And yeah, you gave a good point, Arya, about maintenance of them. And I know that there were a lot of ideas tried by different companies, and maybe even Bosch has tried this of how do you make good experiences with charging stations? Like, would our fuel stations be redundant, and would charging stations come in place of the fuel stations? And how would we create a good sort of like experience for people around who go there? Because what if it takes 35 minutes or 40 minutes for you to fast charge, depending on the battery of your car, to fast charge your car? What would you just stay inside the car, or would you be roaming around the car, like, or would you go to like a service center or like some sort of grocery store nearby? Like, because with the infrastructure comes all of these sort of like services, like we have in petrol pumps as well. So it's more about like, okay, how do we do this, and also how do we do this in countries that probably have not adopted electric vehicles as much as others have.
Yeah, and regarding efficiency, I mean, and the cost of vehicle too. So, um for a traditional petrol scooter, let's compare scooter, a electric scooter and a conventional petrol scooter. So, for 1 liter of petrol that I pour into my vehicle, it can go about 50 to 60 kilometers. But what
Mm.
about the electric vehicle? It won't go that much. So people are really concerned about that I would have to recharge it uh, to, cover the distance I have to go. What if I have to
Mm.
travel 120 kilometers? I'll just pour into 2 liters of petrol, and I could go in that would be one time of fuel that I have to pour in. But what about the electric vehicle? I'll have to recharge it. So I think that is also a roadblock for the
Mm.
electric vehicles. This is what
Yeah,
I feel.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and it sort of also ties in with the battery that we have right now, because you talked a lot about range, Madhavi, and a lot of people have range anxiety. And for example, like, okay, would my 78 kilowatt battery take me when charged to 100% state of charge? Can it take me 2 hours into this national forest? Or could it take me there, and could it get me back? And people tend to have this anxiety because they have to work out numbers, they have to do calculations in order to figure out, okay, is this possible? And you spend a lot of time doing that then. And it sort of ties in a lot also in the batteries we have at the moment. So at the moment, we have lithium ion batteries in our cars. And as you can see, like you can maybe, you guys can Google solid state batteries and see how many players in the industry are actually moving towards it. So there's this company called QuantumScape as well, that's moving into creating solid state batteries for the future. And a lot of companies have partnered up. I think Volkswagen has tied into a partnership with QuantumScape in order to manufacture solid state batteries. And now we ask ourselves this question: okay, is solid state battery gonna be the answer to all of our concerns? Would it reduce range anxiety? Would it give us a higher state of charge for that particular distance that we're trying to go to? Can it charge our cars faster? So yeah, I would really encourage you guys just to look that up and see if you believe that that's going to be the future of solving all of our concerns in the industry right now. So hit that up after this call.
Um, yeah. So I also had a follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere that there's also sodium-ion batteries that are more efficient than lithium-ion, I think, and they carry uh, I mean, I don't know how do you call the units of charge which a sodium-ion battery would carry is more than the lithium-ion. So we've had, if you're talking quantitatively, you'll have more charge stored into that lithium-ion batteries compared to sodium-ion batteries compared to that in the lithium ion. So, correct me if I'm wrong. I just read it somewhere. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course, Madhavi. And no, I mean the batteries have and I think the term out here, what you mentioned, which you describe very accurately, is the energy density that you have within that volume of the battery. So we can either keep adding more batteries within the car, and we could give more weight and volume, or we could reduce the volume. And in that particular sort of like space, we could add more energy density inside. Um, so sodium ion has a couple of advantages as well, but it also has a couple of disadvantages, and I think one of um, the most maybe I'm wrong about this, but it adds to a lot of weight in the car. And of course, batteries in general, when you add them, the car becomes really heavy. But if you add a lot of sodium ion batteries into a car, you're probably talking about like 2 or 3 times more heavier than the lithium ion. So weight also reduces, for example, affects other parts. And when I'm talking about that, I mean more of like the aerodynamics. If you're increasing the weight of the car, it's going to become more heavy, and then you have to compensate for that in other domains. For example, like remove other features that add further weight to the car. Um, so so yeah, that's one thing I would say about that. But also like going back to the things that we spoke about, like range anxiety and like, okay, how much can a car go on a single charge? And like we did a couple of studies, and we try to figure it out that range anxiety was actually very psychological. So maybe we are doing all of these calculations unknowingly. For example, like we don't come to office saying that, oh, our phone has 11% charge and freak out. Like we don't freak out when we hear that anymore. We try to charge our phones overnight and be like, okay, in the morning it's completely charged. If it's not, okay, I charge it on the way. And that's very similar to what we're trying to do here with cars. So that we create this sort of network where maybe if you have like a charging cable at your garage or something, you charge your car overnight. In the morning you have a fresh charge. You drive to office, you put your car there, you charge again, you come back home. So it's sort of like also creating that awareness that, okay, this is the rhythm, like how we've created the same rhythm with our mobile phones. And yeah, so I'm very excited to see how this goes in the future and which direction we go towards. But yeah, I would encourage, if you guys have a chance, look up on all these, as Madhavi said, like look up on solid ion, and don't go by what I am saying. Try to figure it out on your own as to why maybe that is not the best way. And try to see, okay, what are other companies doing? Like for example, if you hit a Google search on solid state batteries, you would see like a lot of startups, a lot of university spin outs into companies who have actually experimented with the electrolyte, the solid state, the anode and cathode of the battery, and trying to come up with new and innovative ways of how we can increase the energy density. And I would like to say, like, go back 100 years, because 100 years back, when we actually started with cars, some of them, or I would say, like in the beginning, it was battery electric. We started off with lead acid batteries. And there's a really funny picture on the internet of actually a person sitting on top of two battery lead acid batteries and driving it. So 100 years back, we did have this. And maybe the energy density of those cars was terrible. But yes, look back, if you're interested in this, look 100 years back and create a timeline. Okay, how is the energy density increasing over time? Where are we going? And what do we want to do with this? And also to put it out there, like a lot of times with batteries, we also get into the aspect of sustainability. And a lot of companies are doing LC analysis of like cradle to grave. Okay, manufacturing of these batteries all the way to like when it goes to the grave, like how do we create a more circular approach towards this? So probably if that interests you, I would definitely encourage you to go check that out.
Yes, and you also mentioned the lead acid batteries. I think the major disadvantage of using them they were very toxic. And similarly is the sodium ion battery. I think it the toxicity and the environmental effect that these sodium ion batteries would have is very huge and is very devastating. So that's the reason why I think it is not being currently used. But research is going on to reduce, the toxicity and how could we still use the sodium ion battery. Yeah, so this was a very interesting space. Let's move on to the next question. So, your current role, I mean, you got the opportunity to work at Volvo. Uh, this was a inbound offer. So, while you were in Schlumberger, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. So, how did you land this opportunity? And yeah, you can talk about it.
Yeah, so transitioning into Volvo Cars was, of course, really exciting. And of course, working with Schlumberger, you're doing very hands-on things in the oil industry, but you start to also ask yourself, what is the future of mankind, and what is your purpose among all of this? Of course, working in the oil and gas industry makes you realize that yes, maybe they are trying to pivot into a more sustainable way of how we extract oil and fuel. And when I came across Volvo Cars, and I was like looking up upon this whole ecosystem that we're moving towards, and yeah, it got me really excited, Madhavi. As you said, like I came over to Sweden, not knowing Swedish, not knowing not having many friends here. So of course it was very challenging. But a lot of these challenges, like a lot of these times, like when you have these situations, it really pushes you to, okay, let's look more, let's find out more about Sweden. And I got here through this really exciting opportunity, and you guys can look up upon this. It's called the Volvo Cars Global Graduate Program. So it's a program that they open it up to the whole world, so you can apply from anywhere. And through this, they want to sort of like build the next generation of leaders within the company. And I entered being a mechanical engineer, being able to sort of explore my way through Volvo Cars, and then moving to Polestar a little bit, and then ending up within the open innovation arena and the open space that I work in right now. So it's been a very interesting transition, and I absolutely love working here. It's a very good environment. It's a very good culture. Volvo Cars. I'm sure if you guys can do a Google search, you can know upon more about it. But they were actually the inventors of the safety belt. back in 1959. So the three-point safety belt is it's an invention by one of the engineers at Volvo many years back. And when that person invented this and put it inside Volvos, everybody said, "It's why do we need this? Why do we need safety belts?" And imagine how many lives a safety belt has saved so far in all these years. Yeah, so I read up more about that, and it was very interesting to work in a company that has safety within its DNA and makes these cars without talking much about them. So they don't openly say, "Oh, our cars are safe," but people have that trust that okay, Volvo is equal to safe car, um, and yeah, and just like being and being in that environment, it's yeah, there's never a dull moment at work, I would say.
I must say your story is quite unique. I mean, we do not usually see recruiters in our DM if you belong to a hardware industry. It's so difficult to, get jobs and you the fact that Volvo reached out to you for a job was incredible. Um, so let's open the mic to the audience. We can have your questions, you can ask your questions to Zareen if you have. And just raise your hand and I'll add you. Um, yeah, so let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's open it up.
There's an
Hello,
option to your
yeah.
left. Okay, yeah, you can continue, Arya.
I had a question. So, as you said, from cradle to grave in regards to sustainability, what according to you would be the future steps towards sustainability with the electric vehicles also coming down the way?
Future of electric cars. I think it really lies in the fact that you try to include this in every step of your supply chain. So, for example, like when we are sourcing these materials, where do they come from? So, when you're doing an LC analysis, you sort of do um, the whole cradle to grave, as I mentioned, like trying to see okay where the materials originated from, the manufacturing process in which they were produced, and then finally, like okay this is how they were assembled together. So the footprint at every point along the stage. And I think the future is, and I don't think it's just constrained to automotive industry, but also all manufacturing facilities and manufacturing areas is understanding at these stages of the supply chain how can we reduce our carbon footprint at every stage. And I think probably Arya, you've also like read all these concerns around the world right now. I don't think I have to reiterate them, but how our global temperature has been increasing over the past decades. And that really brings up a lot of concerns in the way we manufacture not only our cars and batteries, but around the world, like most manufacturing facilities, how do they do it? What is their carbon impact? And at every stage of this process, how would you be able to reduce the footprint to a level where your facility is carbon neutral? Or if not carbon neutral, how would it significantly reduce the complete footprint of your process? I hope that answered your
Yes,
question.
great. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
We can take the next question. If you guys have,
Mhm.
just raise your hand.
Yeah, and also if you do not want to raise your hand right now and ask, you can always send me a little note on LinkedIn or something like that. So feel free to do that as well.
So Sonali has raised her hand. Um, Sonali, there was some problem adding you in. Can you raise your hand again? So, Zareen, I had a very stupid question. I think it is very stupid, but I was just curious that uh, there are some instances that I know about where people, just plug into their phone to the charger and maybe they're using the phone or they're talking on the phone while the phone is charging, and we see the phone suddenly, just bursts out of nowhere. So, this is very common in India, I think, and so. Will this ever happen with an electric car? I mean, I know it's a very stupid question, but I was very curious.
Hmm. No question is stupid, Madhavi. But it sort of just reminds me of like a TikTok video which I saw, because uh, you cannot justify what really happened, right? You have to investigate a little bit further. But yeah, I mean, on a very serious note, if I go away from that, um, there is a possibility of, for example, we do a lot of when we're testing our batch, and I shouldn't say we because I don't know the exact procedure at VOLVO, but when automotive industries are testing their battery packs, we have to sort of test for durability, test for do a lot of crash tests, fire tests. So there are a lot of tests that are done before, and all of the batteries come with the, as you know, in all mechanical devices, we do have a little bit of a space where I think I don't know the exact term of what it's called. um, oh, I don't get it on top of my mind right now. But there is a buffer, so that if external, like if we talk in terms of pressure, if excessive pressure is applied, there is a certain like buffer space that the battery can withstand. I don't remember the name for that, but it comes in. So it's as it applies to like pressure and durability and those sort of things of on the battery. It also applies to fire, because there is a little bit of a safety index or a margin, as people call it. So no, your battery will not explode immediately if you if you plug it in. There are a lot of safety protocols around that. So I don't think it just it would happen. But of course, like if your car is met in a crash, or it is yeah, it's near a fire extinguisher, it would catch fire like any other batteries. But yeah, as I think when I was seeing a little bit upon solid state batteries, and probably you guys can also read up more upon solid state batteries and fire, because the conclusion of this one article that I was seeing was that they are more safe when exposed to these environmental factors. So they are more safe in terms of like catching fire. But don't take my word for it, because I just sort of skimmed through this article, but read up more upon that and see which one is safe. Lithium ion versus solid state.
Amazing. So we have Prana, who's raised his hand. Maybe you can ask your question.
Hey, hi guys. So thanks Zareen for being on the stage and sharing all these things with us. And yeah, actually you have a pretty good profile. Like I liked it a lot. I went through your LinkedIn and saw also you have been in programs like Antarctica exploration and Mars One related astronaut stuff, and that sounds pretty interesting. Other thing is that. I also have a mechanical background and
Okay.
shifted a bit more towards understanding product and being more of a hardware plus software kind of person. And yeah. So like from the bird's view, like the whole context of hardware plus software seems pretty interesting, which in turn like moves into electric cars and stuff. So actually I don't have like particular questions, but like what I find most interesting about electric cars is uh, maybe if we compare it with gasoline and electric. What I personally, I don't know for sure if this is true, but what I think personally is we have some excess of energy created. So I think since batteries are pretty like we have energy density stored in the car itself, maybe we have excess energy to use in other applications, which like Tesla is doing. It has a gaming PC or PS4 kind of thing into its system, and AI autonomous driving and all that stuff. So for India specifically, if we talk about electric cars being viable, maybe it would depend upon the current infrastructure, like how the electric grid lines are spread across the geology, and is it viable to build, for example, from Pune to Mumbai there are ghats and stuff. So if a electric car has to travel from here to there, then how many stations we require, then the operation research and game theory of where the positions and all that stuff would be. So that sounds pretty interesting. And the second thing I find interesting is like what kind of AI would we need to function properly in India because of all that chaos and all that stuff on the streets. So one I read a few months back that I think in context of Tesla there are like 5 levels of autonomy that the system has, and currently I think it is at level 4 or 5. But perhaps in context of India, we might need like the highest level, maybe. And also to add to this, the third thing is that there's a lot of data involved in, I think, in electric cars, and specifically if they are autonomous, like GBs of maybe lidar, or maybe imagery, satellite imagery and all that stuff, maybe in terabytes or something, and which may end up being like connected hive kind of thing. So this is another like interesting thing. So yeah, thanks for like opening up on this topic and like putting a stage. Yeah.
Thank you, Pranav, and really good points. And one of the things that you mentioned out there was like, is it viable? The questions that you put up there, and yeah, there's so many concerns that go within this, and a lot also ties into the legislation and the legal aspects um, of these. As you said, the 5 levels of autonomy. Um, are the legal are the legislations of the state and of the country, are they at the same speed as the speed of development of our technology? And a lot of times that we see, maybe it's not at the same rate. So if our tech is improving, and if we do end up building these infrastructures, okay, but how would it impact um, us in how would it impact us in the other way? For maybe I can give a quick example. You have autonomous cars on the road. Okay, we have a world where we have achieved level 5 autonomy, but what about and in developing countries like India, what if you have cars which are still run on petrol and gasoline and haven't been phased out? So phasing out of like the old and bringing of the new really depends on the whole legislation around them and what is enforced by the respective country as well. So as you might see that in Europe, they have this one legislation around NCAP. And okay, we are going to phase out the old, and we do not want, okay, now I'm just saying this on top of my head, but we do not want, for example, like cars manufactured before 2005 on the road. So they're phasing out the old and they're making way for the new. And that really depends upon like the legislation surrounding that in that particular country. So yeah, your points are actually spot on when you spoke about that. But yeah, it's the matter. It's so intricate, and it really depends on the pace at which these two things or three things go hand in hand. And it's so different from country to country. I don't think we can generalize it in any particular way.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. So like according to your perspective, what could be the time when electric cars would be in India and like in Africa, like the majority of vehicles would be like? Do you have a rough like a year or year in mind?
Mm, well, I don't have a year in mind as to when this would happen because it really depends upon because okay, so let's talk about it this way. So a lot of countries and in the world we have it's sort of split up into okay, these are developed countries. They've used the resources. They've passed through the whole industrial revolution. They've developed and they're developed countries. Their economy is good. It's up and running. Then you have like a certain set of developing countries and you have underdeveloped countries. A lot of countries in Africa who are still trying to fight for basic needs like food and water. And when they have these discussions within the United Nations, and I was seeing one of them, I think it's very unfair to say that these underdeveloped countries who are still fighting for basic necessities should pivot into this whole realm of okay, now we just skip the whole industrial revolution and we just move into a stage where we want people to buy expensive electric cars because there is a cost associated with it, right? And I think from their perspective, it's really unfair for them to sort of be left with this because they did not go through that whole cycle of development, and most of the resources were exhausted by developed countries. So a lot of these countries talk about like, okay, who should take the cost of that? um, should it be which country should do it? And it's very unfair to sort of say that okay, when we're still fighting for basic necessities, those countries move towards electric development. They a lot of places in Africa, a lot of countries they don't have electricity to begin with. Their houses are probably lit just by are still lit by coal fire and there are a lot of remote places that perhaps don't even have a mobile network. And it's unfair for them to be like, okay, let's go electric because it's not possible. It's not possible for them to sort of have an infrastructure and have that rate of development as other countries do. So I think it really ties in the end as to okay, who would be sort of the first countries to adopt it, and it has been adopted widely by I think the United States moving towards like the whole Electrify America charging ecosystem. Okay, we will have charging stations at these points and um, like creating that network within the US. But what we also see from there is that more and more people they are trying to understand, okay, let's go towards electric car, let's go buy one. But yeah, there is a cost associated with these electric cars, even for people from developed countries. So yeah, I think it's really hard to put a date on when things would happen for India or these other countries. It's very hard to say that. Um, but yeah, let's. I think we have more hands raised up, so let's take some from the audience as well. But Pranav, I hope that answered your questions. And if you want to follow up on that, I would. Yeah, I'm very open for a discussion.
So I have something to add to what Pranav was asking about. So Pranav, you talked about storage, and so Tesla has a system wherein whenever you apply brakes to your vehicle, there's a lot of energy that's wasted. And Tesla has the system wherein you can convert the energy that is wasted during the braking, and you can store it for reuse purposes. You can just look it up on the internet, you'll find more on it. But yeah, that braking power or that braking energy can be converted or stored again, which will not go wasted. So yeah, that's about it. We can take in other questions as well. So yeah, Sonali had a question. So she's asking, should we continue working in multinational company where we are definitely getting things to learn, or sometimes we feel to pursue higher studies also? So during this COVID situation, taking decisions to leave the jobs and go for higher education, it's sometimes confusing. What are your thoughts on that?
Sonali, that's a good question. And I'm sure you're like between two minds. Okay, should I continue working in my present job or should I go on for higher studies? And I think it's a very personal decision. And it really sort of ties into the area you see yourself in. So if you feel you are stagnant and you do not see growth in your current organization, then of course, like moving ways and pivoting and going into a different area is the way to go. But if you feel like okay, you are getting growth and opportunities within your current realm, then yeah, stick with it, and then find that window of opportunity where you feel like okay, I'm stagnant now, and now I want to move forward and do something else. Whenever you feel stagnant, try to do something different. Um, I hope that answered your question.
Radhika, Abhi, you're in the Rutvi, you're in the panel. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi Zareen, it's Rutvi here. So I'm currently working with Boeing, and like my question is more around the autonomy of vehicles. So similarly, we are incorporating many autonomous decisions in airplanes as well. And as we do more and more study, we find out that many of the recent accidents are not actually due to the fault of the pilots, but due to the wrong signals given by the autonomous systems. So, like, how do you feel? Just your opinion around autonomy in vehicles. Like, what impact can they bring?
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Ruthvi. Because yeah, of course you are, and it's all about about control in this case because you do give up a level of your control, um, control on your steering wheel, control on your brakes. Um, if you sort of talk about level 5, then yeah, you do give up a lot of these controls because you know the systems are smart. But I think that there's a lot that runs into the making of these systems. For example, like where are you getting your data from? What exactly are your lidars and radars? How are they detecting images? So it really sort of runs down to sort of the AI models or the ML models that we're developing at the very core of it. So for example, like if you're doing 3D image detection, and you see a moose or a deer in front of your car. Okay, I won't say plane because it's a very car specific example. Um, and you have like at the crux of it, you have like a model that does 3D image detection that figures out okay, this is a moose, and relays it to your brakes, and it applies your brakes. So at the very crux of it, that's how it should work. But since our society is so complex, we have we have a lot of scenarios that we have to work towards. When you're going, for example, like just try to walk along a road in Pune. Since I know many of us are from Pune here, um, you have to feed in so much of data into your model. Maybe there is a scooter coming in from the left. Maybe there is, you have some sort of like a dog coming in from the right. There's so many different scenarios that could happen, and so many different scenarios that you would have to fit into your model. So it really depends upon, in the end, okay, how do we make and work on our infrastructure in such a way that we have these possible scenarios within our models, so we trust them enough and give up control for them. So I don't think I hope I answered your question because maybe we haven't reached that and we would in the future, but yeah, we're still some way to go there. And it really depends upon a lot of these local road scenarios.
Right. Sure. Thank you, Zareen.
You're unmuted for a while. You can ask your question.
I have one more question. Like,
Yeah, go on.
A bit intriguing one. So, like, for instance, if we get something like in context of electric cars and the network or the hive like thing, the interconnected cars and stuff, if we get a solar storm or something, so will it affect all the network and cars will go haywire or something? So, is that possible?
Oh, this looks like out of Inception.
Yeah, but
Let
dystopia.
dystopian future. Um, hmm. Quite honestly, I haven't thought about that dystopian. So, but hmm. But yeah, no, I will give it some thought. But I haven't thought about that. I think I'm too positive about this world. So I haven't really gone into a lot of dystopia at the moment. But what do you think? I'm not sure who asked the question because it said the writing dev, so I'm not sure who asked it. But let me know what you think.
Uh, well, I don't know. Maybe I think recently we had something about solar storm. It was a small one, and it didn't affect us. And the last time a solar storm affected us was when we didn't have like when we used to use lamps and candles, gasoline stuff. So I think we will be developing some kind of shield or something, some kind of inverse magnetic stuff, or like our own magnetic field or something to not let that happen, because clearly I think an intense solar storm could harm stuff, specifically if everything gets electric on Earth.
Mhm. Yeah, I think none of them. We just have to wait and watch
Yeah,
um,
yeah, true.
as to what happens. I'm not sure I can put any particular answer on that question. Um, yeah, but let's see if we have any more left. Madhavi, how's it looking like at your side? Otherwise, we could probably wrap it up
Just
soon.
joined.
And
She has a question.
mhm.
Radhika, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, you
Hi,
can.
am I audible?
Yes. Go on.
Yes. Hi, Zareen. So I had two questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Radhika.
So the first one is, I'll take you a bit back to your undergrad days. So I would like to ask, how did you, along with Tejaswini and team, establish the ASME Come In student section at our college? Because it's the 6th year of the section now, and it has brought huge amount of opportunities, like life-changing opportunities for us. And I would like to say, on behalf of all the members, a big thank you for establishing such an awesome platform for us.
Thank you so much, Radhika. That means so much to all of us, and I'll pass it along to the founding team as well. But we are so proud of the things that you guys have achieved within the ASME chapter. It's absolutely phenomenal to see from where it was to where it went to where it's now. And really kudos to you guys for like driving and steering it forward. But yeah, and I think from our end, we were just so happy to sort of lay those starting bricks of ASME, and you guys have really built on top of it. And the idea actually started from an ASME conference that happened in Pune. And from there, just being like, oh, okay, there's no chapter of ASME or there's no section of ASME in Pune. What if we could start one? To being like, okay, we are the only all girls ASME section in India. Um, and there's always a lot of fun in being the first, because you sort of don't know a lot about what you are working with. And when we started off, of course, we did have an idea, okay, ASME had a lot of potential, but when we see it right now, of like, okay, that potential was really like it's really become exponential, and it really impacts the members and the leaders, and like yourself, Radhika, and Madhavi, who've really steered this forward. Like, the impact that it creates on people, because it's not just like a line in your resume, okay, I'm a part of ASME. It does really change you when it comes to your networking opportunities, your career opportunities. And I think for us it was very exciting laying those initial bricks down where you guys have built up. And now it's a whole structure in the making. So good job.
Yes, thank you. And the second question I had was like, if comfort zone is coming between your aspirations, then how do you tackle with such situations?
A comfort zone. Well, I think all of us tend to get a little bit comfortable, and I'm not any different. But when you do see something that intrigues you, you see an opportunity which is like, okay, maybe that's interesting. I would say, like, don't be afraid to just jump onto it, because you never know what you learn from it, and what you receive from it, and the connections that you make. So yeah, of course, like, we all tend to get comfortable. And I'm no different in that realm. But yeah, if you like something, I think you'll know it in your gut, and you'd want to go towards it. So trust your gut feeling, and trust your inner voice. I know that's very cliched, but it does happen when it happens. Okay, Radhika, that's did you have anything else?
Oh, no, thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Madhavi. So yeah, I think we've taken most of the questions here. Should we wrap it up?
There's I'll take in one question if you don't mind. So Akash here is with me and he has a question. He asks, if a solar storm occurs, can't we just restart the electric network?
Okay. Ah, solar storm. Okay, I'm probably not the best person to talk about solar storms. I'm not sort of well read on this matter. But Akash, once I do, and I'll bring up this question to sort of the people who are looking into it, into my company as well, and I'll get back to you, because I'm no pro at solar storms. There is a I do know that we have a strategy and foresight team that looks into all of these questions of, okay, what happens in the future, what about this and that. But it's sort of like talking about what if an asteroid hits the earth, because it's like sort of that dystopian future. So it goes into a bit out of what I would say, of what I would sort of like think about, because it more dives into speculation and scenario thinking. But yeah, I would bring that up, but I don't have a very concrete answer for you right now.
Okay, so yeah, so let's move forward. So there's this traditional segment in permissionless learning. We talk about what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks, because the sessions that we hold are uh, the frequency is every 2 weeks. So we discuss what we've been doing in the past 2 weeks. So I'll start maybe, and then I'll nominate the next person. We can move forward like that. So I've been trying to transition into web development now, and so there was this opportunity that came my way to build something in Web3, similar to Industry 4.0. So it was very difficult to understand what Web3 is, because I was not aware of the of how the prerequisite systems work. So I had to struggle for a while, but then it was very interesting to figure out things on my own. So yeah, that's about it. I'll nominate Zareen. Tell us what you've been learning or doing for the past 2 weeks.
I really like how you guys do this. This is very nice. It encourages a lot of like thought and learning among everyone. And yeah, we spoke a little bit about this, Madhavi, like you're doing web development, so keep that up. Shout out to you. What I am learning right now. Um, so I mean, learning comes in various shapes and forms. So I'm trying to to learn to do a little bit of cooking at home. So to all you guys out there who don't do their own cooking, when you start doing it, it can be very challenging. And I would say like start better late than ever. So because you never know, you're put in the situation where you're out of the country. You miss home food, and I really miss home food. So yeah, that's something that I'm trying to do. But yeah, on a professional level, it's important to keep yourself well read and updated, um, and sort of like continuously learn. So I've been last week, I've been actually involved with this conference called Tech Crunch. So it was a week-long conference that, and you sort of you get a network and talk to people who are in different tech industries. So for me, like being in that, being present and learning and networking and taking those over and seeing, okay, how do we take these best practices and connect dots with what I'm working on, and also like my personal direction was very interesting. So yeah, I would say like definitely look out for cool conferences out there that you can attend and be a part of and get these interesting notes, because then you would be like more updated as to what's new in the world, what's happening. So yeah, let me see who to nominate. Maybe I would go nominate you, Ruthvi. Let's see, what are you up to?
I think there's some problem with your audio system, Ruthvi. We cannot hear you.
Let's take Arya then. Arya, can you unmute yourself? I think audio is working very weird now. I don't know if you can hear them, Madhavi, but they just zoned out for me.
For me as well. Let's go to Radhika then.
Yeah, I think I cannot hear any of you guys now.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
now we
go
hear
ahead.
you.
Okay, so I'm from a core mechanical background, but my position now in Boeing is as a systems engineer. So that's something new I'm trying to learn, because some systems engineering needs not only core mechanical knowledge but lots of coding as well. So yeah, so that's one thing, and some designing processes. So that's what I'm to learning.
No, that's good. Keep it up, Ruthvi.
Thank you, Sari.
You nominate the next person, please. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Madhvi, I can.
Yeah,
Not sure about that.
can you nominate the next person, please?
Yeah, okay, Pranav, can you go next?
Yeah, sure. I hope you guys are able to hear.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, for me, it's basically been a bit touching up with maths, mostly geometry and stuff. So I've been solving stuff a lot since for this week. Okay, so I nominate Tassim.
Next. Kasim, can you hear us?
Hi, Madhuri.
With
Am
this
I
call
audible?
today. Yeah, Radhika.
Yeah. So, for me, in my latest project, it was related to risk management. So, I've kind of reading those documents.
Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Able to hear you.
Hello. Yeah, so I've been recently recruited into Mercedes-Benz. So the past 2 weeks um, I've been talking to a lot of new people, getting to know about the team, and a lot of fun for me the past 2 weeks. And I've also been working on some of the SLTC, the Student Leader Training Conference by ASME. So being a part of that team, I'm also working through that. And yes, we also went for a friends outing today, so it's been fun the past 2 weeks.
Arya, nominate the next person, please.
Yeah, I think I'll nominate Abhi underscore exe.
Am I audible?
Go ahead, Abhi.
For the past 2 weeks, I have been learning web development. Day before yesterday, I had a meeting with a CTO of a startup for a possible internship role, and he has given me one assignment. So for the next week, I will be going through that assignment and see if I can finish that. I am in my third year of undergrad, so I am looking for internships now. So that's why I was uh, having a chat with the CTO. So the last 2 weeks have been basically coding and meetings. That's all.
One person left. Kasim, can you unmute yourself and let us know and share with us what you've been learning slash doing for the past 2 weeks? Any interesting projects? You unmute yourself. Zareen, can you hear me?
Do you hear me,
Yeah,
Madhavi? Ah, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, so Kasim, so you're the next. Can you unmute yourself and share with us what you've been learning slash doing for the past 2 weeks? A common problem everyone's facing. What's happening with Discord? Um, maybe you could, Kasim, maybe you could text what your thoughts are, or um, you can share with us in the general chat. for coming in. Thanks for joining us. This was a really great session. I thoroughly enjoyed it till the end, and I hope people have great takeaways from your journey. And yeah, thanks for being here. I know I approached you a little late, but you were so kind to, accommodate in the permissionless learning session in your schedule. So thanks a lot for that.
Great. Thank you, Madhavi. Thank you for having me here, and good luck to everyone out there.